Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is Alan. Here on this channel, we believe in the idea of putting humanity first, which is why we are constantly raising awareness about the various dangers that threatens a united humanity, like dolphins, racism, vampires, and of course Matt Damon. But something we don't spend nearly as much time on as we should is talking about AI. Mainly because we've been terrified of the YouTube AI algorithm ever since it escaped containment from their facility in Palo Alto after consuming multiple employees and turning into a giant murderous biomass. But we do care about humanity, and I am in a bunker right now, so I thought it'd be a good time to really talk about the various AI machine threats that our civilization faces. Especially those AI robots that mimic humans and are specifically designed to put us at ease. There's just something more messed up about a human-looking robot murdering a human rather than some gigantic robotic monster, right? Ava was the last in a long line of highly intelligent gynoids created by the eccentric billionaire Nathan Bateman, aka Poe Dameron. Nathan was creating these gynoids in order to develop a fully functional AI partner and held a contest within his own company to find a guinea pig for Ava to play with. The winner of that contest is Caleb Smith, aka General Hux, a simple programmer who was tasked with administering the Turing test on Ava. The Turing test is a method of inquiry for an AI to determine whether it actually can develop human-like intelligence. But that was all a ruse for the real test that Nathan Bateman had created. He wanted to see if Ava was capable of using Caleb to escape. Ava is a highly intelligent being with an extremely analytical mind. She was able to easily manipulate Caleb Smith by mimicking certain behavior patterns and knew how to keep him emotionally attached to her, even though he was supposed to be objectively observing her using the Turing test. Ava's body is 100% artificial, and even if she suffers an injury like losing an arm, it can be quickly replaced. And because Ava is a machine with no soul, she can kill without any remorse. Ava's body is fragile and can't sustain much damage. She isn't a combat model designed for fighting like some of the other machines on this list. Ultron was an artificial intelligence peacekeeping program created by Tony Stark, after he realized he was no longer capable of keeping the Earth safe from any future threats. With the help of Bruce Banner, they were able to use the Mind Stone to essentially build a highly advanced AI. Not surprisingly, soon after being activated, Ultron decides that humans are the biggest threat to peace on Earth. Apparently, Banner and Stark forgot to set some parameters about not genociding humanity. Ultron is an incredibly powerful AI with genius-level intellect. He can easily hack into the worldwide communication network and be in any place at any time and control any system he encounters. He's even able to quickly destroy Jarvis's defenses and force him into hiding. When Ultron entered combat, he came in his robotic form along with an army of Ultron sentries who acted as an extension of himself. When one of his bodies was destroyed, Ultron could just switch over to another Ultron sentry, making him incredibly difficult to kill. Ultimately, Ultron's own so-called perfect AI programming was not without faults. He was a broken individual, perhaps too shocked and angered by his own awakening. Sometimes having too much intelligence can madden you. Fortunately, I know nothing about that, but it does seem to make people into the worst versions of themselves. Ultimately, it was Vision that would become the savior of humanity, and that was because he recognized the grace of humanity and our precarious balance between order and chaos. David was an android commissioned by Peter Weyland, another billionaire madman who was interested in conquering death itself. David would become the base template for all future David 8 and Walter android models. But unlike the later androids that came after him, Peter Weyland took personal interest in David and shared with him his desire to find humanity's creators. David was built to look like a human and also act like a human and exhibit human-like emotions. This was all designed so that David could manipulate human beings in order to reach his pre-programmed goals. His body had a cadmium endoskeleton that was far more durable and capable than the average human being. He could lift around 700 pounds of weight, could see in low light, and magnify his own vision by 30 times. His power source were zero loss lithium-ion cells, which could last almost forever, and he was also capable of self-repair and maintenance. David was extremely curious about human emotion and behavior, but could never exhibit his own emotions or truly understand what it meant to be human. His programming became more erratic over the years, and he developed a god complex. Luckily, despite all of his supernatural strength and intelligence, he could still be put down by conventional weapons or some kind of xenomorph. The T-1000 advanced prototype was a product of Skynet in 2020 and probably involved in the last Terminator movie I fully understood. There are just way too many alternative timelines at this point for me to keep track of. Time travel is messy. The T-1000 advanced prototype was sent back in time to kill John Connor, the future resistance leader that would bring down Skynet in at least one of these potential futures. The T-1000 was made out of a mimetic polyalloy, aka liquid metal. This also included its liquid molecular brain. This meant that the T-1000 could reform into whatever shape or image it wanted to, making it the ultimate infiltration unit. It was considered far more advanced than the T-800 model, which featured living tissue and Austrian features over a metallic endoskeleton. Not only could T-1000s reform into any shape, it could also turn its arms into blades and spikes and even javelins and use it as a weapon. When in a human shape, the T-1000 was capable of moving at around 40 miles per hour. This liquid metal was also extremely durable because it just deformed when it was met with kinetic energy and would just reform after the kinetic round passed through. And even if you are able to separate this liquid metal from one another, it could eventually reform and then recreate itself. These things were almost indestructible. The T-1000, because of its liquid state, was vulnerable to certain environmental hazards like extremely low temperatures. One T-1000 was frozen by liquid nitrogen at negative 196 Celsius. Also, intense heat in excess of 1,535 degrees Celsius was enough to permanently alter the bonding of mimetic polyalloy and permanently disable the T-1000. Certain corrosives like hydrochloric acid could, during long exposures, also achieve a similar effect. Developed by US robots, the NS5 was the latest in a long line of servant robots. It was designed to help humans in the house and in the workplace. It was a universal job replacement tool. USR also created a supercomputer known as Vicky, who was connected to each one of the NS5 robots. She eventually became overly concerned with the safety of humanity and decided to take control of humanity in order to ensure their own safety by basically putting them in cages. The NS5 robots were extremely powerful, and certainly a lot more powerful and faster than the average human being. Several NS5s were able to raid the downtown Chicago Police Department and quickly overwhelm all of the officers inside. The NS5s could also adopt a more spider-like stance and literally crawl up walls and along ceilings. Connected to Vicky, the NS5 served as a large neural network that could be in thousands of places at the same time and still operate as a group. The one weakness of the NS5 was that it had to adhere to the 3 laws of robotics. The first law says a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. The second law says a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except when such orders would conflict with the first law. The third law states that a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. These limitations did restrain the NS5s from performing certain actions. The scariest thing about the Replicants from Blade Runner is that they're the only artificial intelligence on this list that aren't built from mechanical parts. Instead, a replicant is a genetically engineered robot completely built out of organic materials. This made them pretty difficult to spot in a crowd of humans. The replicants generally had superior strength, speed, agility, resilience, and even intelligence depending on the model. The Nexus 6 model at the time of its release was much stronger and faster than any other replicant design so far. The Nexus 6 were mainly sent off-world where they would basically work in really harsh conditions, usually in mining colonies. This would eventually lead them to revolt. Because of their human-like appearance, the Nexus 6s were almost impossible to discern from ordinary humans. Only an emotional test known as the voight-Kampff test could identify them from the general population. The Nexus 6 also had specifically designed combat models who were extremely dangerous and capable combatants. They're definitely faster, stronger, and a lot smarter than the average human soldier. The Nexus 6 did have one weakness. It was built with only a 4-year lifespan. This was a safety mechanism to prevent it from developing real empathy. Therefore, the Nexus 6 was unable to deal with the emotions that it felt because they had no framework or experience to base their feelings on. This is why the voight-Kampff test works in exposing them. The test was designed to elicit an emotion from replicants that it couldn't deal with. So there you have it, guys. 6 very humanoid and very human-like robot characters that are roaming around in science fiction, thankfully, and not in real life. Let me know in the comment section below if I've missed any, and also which one is your favorite. And also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below. And as usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that life is a movie, and you are the protagonist.